recording. This is the after chapter discussion for 9.53, and yeah, we'll be talking about that. First off, I just want to say that I'm trying something new for the last two after chapter discussions I've hosted. If you guys want, so if you don't necessarily need to ping me if you want to speak, you can just interrupt me if you have something you want to reply to me about. But if you want to just keep doing the old way and keep pinging me, that's fine. If you want your stuff read out loud, just type it in ACD reactions comments and I'll read it out loud. Otherwise, let's just get started with general impressions. Anything big you want to say about the chapter? Any of your favorite scenes, worst scenes, anything like that? Now is the time. And I'll get us started by just saying that this was like a 9.5 out of 10 chapter for me. I loved it. It was a great chapter. And definitely my absolute favorite scene was the night scene where the knights were judging the Clary Fields people and protecting the vampires. I just thought the whole framing of it was really cool, and I loved seeing the flames used in that kind of way. It was a very unique way of doing it, and I just thought it was very well done. And Zesky was another favorite part of this chapter. I've really grown to super enjoy her points of view so far. They're just very unique, and I think they add a lot. So yeah, this was a 9.5 out of 10 for me. Anyways, Sidehammer, why don't you go ahead?
I'd say it was like an 8 or something for me. It felt a little disjointed for me. I kind of jumped around. I wasn't sure. It felt like I had like a cohesive theme, but it doesn't really matter to me. Just usually like all the just the scenes in it. It wasn't much humor at this time, and but I did enjoy Fier kicking ass, and Zesky meeting the doppelganger was pretty interesting. That was pretty. Pirate's always been good at writing horror, or those moments of like creepy shit. So I liked it when it was trying to get in the door, and Liska was fighting it off. I mean, I'm surprised. I mean, I liked hearing about Liska's leveling history as well. How Tyrion actually managed to overpower her sometimes, and it really interests me that the doppelganger could push the door so far it wouldn't even Tyrion. She could hold it against Tyrion. So that was an interesting part to me. I think my favorite part though is at the end with Ilvris and Aaron sitting in the garden and just finally clearing the air about their feelings together. And I don't know, I really enjoyed, even though it was like canonically sinking the ship, it was also giving a nice intimate moment with them as well, of them being affectionate and supportive of each other, and an actual adult understanding. And I think actually it got through to Aaron for the first time as well. So I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. I generally agree with you on your last bit about that scene. I thought that was like a really well done romantic scene. Basically, it wasn't like they weren't being romantic with one another, but it was a good rejection scene, I guess you could say. It was probably one of my favorite romantic scenes of the whole series so far. Yeah, I just thought it was really well done, and how they spoke to one another and how they came to understand where they were with one another.
Yeah, I like that they actually show like respect for each other. Like,
Yeah,
I have no doubt that Numtung respects Aaron, and I know Aaron loves Numtung, but Numtung is coming at it from a place of being lower. He thinks she's above him, and I think Aaron and Nilvris at least meet together at eye level if only with some variables, some variance there, but mostly as equals, and I like that. So yeah.
Yep. So yeah, thank you, Sidehammer, for your general impressions. Let's go ahead and read out some of the other impressions people have given. Action Kermit says, I love the way Aaron and Magnolia argued. Mags knows exactly who Aaron is now, and it's hilarious to see them on the same wavelength. Yeah, that was another one of my favorite scenes this chapter. They were all just really great scenes, but it really seemed like Magnolia just understood where Aaron was coming from, and she was exasperated. She was mad at her, but she was like, okay, I get how to work with you a bit better now. And Aaron at the same time was, she might consider in the future what Magnolia told her here, because Magnolia was right. Aaron could have waited a tiny bit of time and just talked with some of her allies to get their opinions on this quest, and it would have helped her a lot in getting a real quest, a really well done quest, I should say, out there instead of the one she did put out.
At the same time, I got to say, I enjoyed that Magnolia still deferred to Aaron about the threat, and
Yeah.
she's like, "I'm bringing armies. Is that going to be enough?" And she's like, "Do you have anything else? Can you bring more?" And she's like, "Oh shit." So I don't know. I love it when Aaron gets respect. It's just cool.
Yeah, Magnolia understands that Aaron is a really big mover and shaker right now, and she needs to treat what Aaron says with due diligence. Aaron's not someone who's going to come with some minor threat and say, "Oh, you need to bring this gigantic army here." No, Aaron is someone who Magnolia knows things. So she respects Aaron's opinions. She respects that Aaron needs these armies at her disposal for whatever reason.
Well, and Magnolia's not bringing the armies. That's Tyrion and the boys.
Yeah,
But
Magnolia's
she's bringing a Dragon Lord and the last
and
unicorn. And Aaron's like, yeah, you got anything better than that? Because,
it's still not enough. It's still
I
not
like
enough.
that gave Magnolia pause. Like, she saw that Aaron was serious.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And she had that moment of, shit.
Yeah.
Aaron
and I
is.
love. Oh, go ahead.
Aaron is definitely someone Magnolia understands. She needs to take her seriously.
Well, and speaking of the scene with Magnolia, I'm glad that Aaron has finally started taking protection with her, even if it was forced upon her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
That
the
dumbass.
Knights, the Order of Solstice. It's a good use for them,
Yes, and I'm glad that they finally just said, no, you don't get to walk around unprotected anymore. We don't want you to get shot again or stabbed or anything else that you're not immune to.
Aaron needs to start realizing that, she is a big political figure, even if she doesn't necessarily want to be one, or she doesn't want to act like one, I should say. She is a political figure, and with that, comes problems, comes enemies, comes assassination attempts. So yeah, having the Order of Solstice with her, just one or two of them when she goes to meet with high-profile people is a good thing. It is.
You gotta love Ressa as well. You'll get my I'll get handed my my resume in by today. Gotta steal people. She's pretty clever.
All right, Linu says 1.5 out of 10 chapter for me. I didn't really like it. It might be the first chapter this volume where there was not a single thing that I genuinely really liked. Having that in mind, I assumed that many people had so much fun reading it and it was a blast to them. So that's PogChamp. That's fine. If not every chapter is for everyone. Some people are going to like some chapters more. And obviously this chapter didn't have Sylvanian in it, so your patented, wow, I can't say that word, patented scoring is going to be lower than when she's actually there. Mizion, I hope I'm saying that name right. Mizion says, I love the Ilvris and Zesky scenes, as well as the Magnolia argument, but I dislike how the whole vampire thing ended up. And we do have a question about the vampire, so we'll get to that in a bit, because that was definitely a big part of the whole chapter, so I want to get some people's opinions on it. Wovlu says, absolutely love this chapter, an easy 9 out of 10 for me. The only parts I was kind of not happy with were Magnolia and the brothers not helping Ilvris. Those parts felt kind of contrived, but I still loved this chapter. We'll get into some more. We actually have a question about that too, so we'll go over that as well. Mystical Pie says, the chapter felt a little stilted. Didn't feel like all the different point of views and threads really tied together super cleanly. There were parts of the chapter I really enjoyed, like the convo between Aaron and Mags, the Knights of Solstice scene, and the convo with Ilvris at the end. Just felt like each point of view swap between Ilvris-related point of views and vampire-related point of views within the chapter weren't as cleanly tied together as normal. I'm trying to think if I got the same feeling, but I'm not too sure I got the same feeling. There definitely are some times when different points of views are tied into chapters without necessarily being super tied together, and I think this was one of those. Though I do think Ilvris probably will use the vampires at some point in the future, or he'll get involved with them at some point in the future, and this might just be set up for that, and it just wouldn't fit in this chapter in general.
I was going to say, I thought on that point, I thought it was still a little bit disconnected, but I also thought that was intentional in a way that there's a bunch of crap happening. That there's this basic line of, Aaron's got plans and other people have plans that related that are all coming up, and so I think it was intentional that there was a bunch of kind of different things all hitting the same set of characters at once from different directions as we're leading up to the volume end, that we're seeing how people are growing, we're seeing people get thrown off balance, and so on. So I think was part of the point, actually.
That's an excellent point, in that we're coming to the volume end, and at this end, we're getting all these plot lines coming together, mishmashing, even if they don't seem like they're related to one another. They're all temporally related in that they're happening right now, and the characters have to deal with them right now, even if they're dealing with all this other stuff at the same time. Pat says, okay, well, continuing with ACD reactions, let's go with Pat says, I'd rate this chapter very highly. I think it married together a lot of plot lines in a way that felt very satisfyingly coherent. Definitely agree with you, Pat. Hans says, really liked the chapter. Mainly I'm chuffed about the return of the Sisters of Chell, but now as allies to Ilvris. I crackpotted predicted it, too. And Sivseer says, I really like this chapter. We got a peek at the walled city of Solstice, which is fantastic. I've read that scene 4 times now, and I finally get Aaron. We got a brother bit, always good. I love the Hat Boys, and Aaron taking him to the garden was good. Magnolia and Aaron is very good. It's very different to their first meeting. Magnolia mumming Aaron was funny, and Ressa saying her resume will be at the end was hilarious. Do I need to say how much I love the Knights of Solstice? Is it necessary? No. Good. They're perfect in every way. Also, Himmelt, once again, is the best. He's always cool and calm and collected in every scene. He's very good for the Inn. He's got the emotional maturity that the Inn is desperately lacking, while being able to weather the storm of any disaster the Inn throws at him. Yeah, this is, I am on board with this whole thought, basically. I agree with pretty much all of it. Especially the Himmelt bit. Himmelt as a character is just really, really well done, and I am glad he's around. He's just a nice character to have.
He's also got a secret, and I'm really interested in figuring out what that is someday.
What do you mean? What secret?
There was a... Fier mentioned that Himmelt hasn't told everybody the whole history of the family
Oh
and
yeah,
what all they can do. So I
yeah.
was really interested in that. So I feel like he's going to be somehow related to Dracula in some way, or they're going to have some neat ties going back to the Reign of Blood. That's all.
Yeah. Him, his like knowledge about their secret vampire powers. Yeah, that I hope it does come up in the future. Maybe we'll get a scene where Himmelt pulls out some truly amazing things. That'll be cool.
Well, he seems oddly respected, even though it's stated that he is not just even the eldest of their group, and that usually the eldest in vampire stories kind of takes that cake. So I'm interested in the younger one, yet still respected as higher than an elder. So that's really interesting to me. So just interested in that.
Well, he does seem to be somewhat of a leader of the whole family. So, and that doesn't necessarily have to do with age, especially because vampires in this setting, with the silver issues, die younger than most humans. So, age.
Yeah. You know what? You're right. I forgot that.
Yeah. All right. Jamaro says, I wish vampire plotline got the attention and time deserved instead of being rushed as background for Ilvers's journey to the north. Too many things being tackled at once. Everything ended up half-baked. Didn't even feel like an arc in the end. By the way, the chapter was incredibly spatially confused. Characters spent 10 chapters budget on teleporting around to keep everything going. Fiora went from Aika's mansion to her parents to the inn and Kellum within moments. Well, all those places are connected by Aaron's door right now. Like that. It doesn't take very long for Fiora to go from Aika's mansion in Inversil to the inn to Kellum. It really doesn't take that long.
Did you really call it Kellum? Is that? Can we take a consensus?
I don't know how to say it. Okay.
I thought it was Selim.
I'm not going to call it Selim. That's for sure. I might be convinced to call it Selim, but I'm not calling it Selim.
Show of hands.
Oh
Yep.
no, so serious.
Just
100% Selim.
Okay.
Top C.
Okay, let's not take it. Let's not take a vote and just say it's Kellum. It's definitely Kellum. It's definitely Kellum.
Shut up, buddies.
Right. I think we're done on general impressions unless anyone else has anything else. Sivsir says Selim. Hans says Kellum, pronounced like Xylem. I never heard that before, that's for sure. And Urinalio says, I enjoy what Mihaela did to Pursuha. She can't weasel her way out of this. Some comeuppance finally for Pursuha. So hopefully, maybe Pursuha will change one day, but I'm still on the I hate Pursuha with the passion train. But we'll see. She could change. Everyone can change.
No, she can't.
I agree, Edoron. I actually agree. She can't change. Never.
Am I the only one who thought she got off really easy?
She did get off easy, but at the same time, what Mihaela did was, she did basically sign Pursua's death certificate. Like, if Pursuha wants to continue being a runner, and all she's running is courier level missions, while she's objectively not good enough to be a courier, she's gonna level up or die, basically. And dying is what she's going to do 99% of the time.
I don't know. It's the Hivelands are like it though. At the safest they've ever been in all of Israel at this time. She's going to be fine. That's not fair.
The Hivelands are still super dangerous to other people, outsiders, I should say.
I don't know. Anyways.
But yeah, Mystical Pie says Mihaela basically consigned her to dying or massively leveling. A pretty smart punishment in this world. Or, quitting being a runner. She could always quit. But, we all know Pursuha is way too proud to do that.
It's not proud, it's probably spite.
Yeah, could be spite. Could be pride. Linu says, shake my head. She would just get executed. Okay. Urinalio says, I hope for the former personally. I don't actually know what the former is in this context.
Die.
Okay.
I believe.
Oh, it's
I believe
it's a
die.
reply to Mystical Pie. Okay, yeah. Dying. Rhythm Brew says she can level up or die, but only one of these outcomes is acceptable. I wonder which one you think it is. Huh. You don't actually need to answer that. We can all wonder. Alright. Jarmao says, pursue being such a petty, spiteful, rotten girl that she tries to spite death itself would be a hilarious story. Yeah. Still hate her. Still hate her, yeah. Han says, it would be funnier if she leveled and came back as a courier, in my opinion. True. She might do that. She probably will do that. Let's be honest. She's got to be a villain for Ryoka still. Alright. Let's get into some of the questions. Linu says, she's not dying, ? Sad face. Probably not. I'm just going to guess that she has some more vileness to spew at us at some later date. Anyways. Mystic Pie says she's taking Casigna's hand while almost dying at the solstice. Oof.
That's
3
a really
oof
cool idea.
reacts.
That's a cool idea.
Alright, let's get to some questions. Let's just start with this one. What are your thoughts on Magnolia and the brothers' reasons for not helping Ilvris? Do you agree with them? Do you disagree with them?
Totally weak, in my opinion. I was actually
Why?
disappointed in the brothers. I thought they would they'd be much more in tune with the things Aaron wanted, but I don't know. It just felt like they were talking, and it felt like they weren't saying it. Like they weren't saying anything. Like yada, but I can't do it. Like, but why not? I didn't feel so satisfied by their excuse me, by their explanations. To be honest, that's one of the things that kind of held me back on this chapter. For me, I just wasn't paying enough attention. I mean, I read it twice, but I just didn't feel like it really came across. So there's just not enough people in Invrisal for their brothers to come in and help. Also, they don't like Drakes. Also, they wouldn't be working for Aaron, so it doesn't matter if she wants them to help Elvis. I don't know. This seems weak.
Well, okay, so Germano says, made perfect sense, I think. Also, Magnolia wanted to help Ilvris, but Aaron thwarted that. Yeah, so I agree with Germano here in that I do think that the brothers' reasons and Magnolia's reasons did make sense to me, because on the brothers' side, I get their argument about not going with Ilvris, because they're kind of right in that soldiers are soldiers first. You know, they're people who fight for their country above all else, and whatever that means. You know, we can go into war crimes that people commit a lot in every war, basically. And I think that's kind of the brothers' issue with Ilvris, is that regardless of who Ilvris is as a person, he will think of his city first about, to them anyways, he will think of his city first before anyone else. And that's kind of their issue with him. And I understand that. As for Magnolia, I can see why, like, this is Magnolia really does have a ton on her plate right now, and she's also not really liked amongst her peers in some ways. Like, some of her peers really hate Magnolia, so who knows if, especially because Magnolia is trying to get peace with Drakes in the South already, so Magnolia, like, coming forward and supporting Ilvris could really turn even more people against Ilvris at the end of the day. And I think it's right that Magnolia is like, okay, if I do this, it will cause more issues for myself and for Ilvris. So I do agree with both of the groups not helping necessarily.
Okay, well, you convinced me then. I guess for Manoli, I mean, that
I
she
do
was.
think
That she
Go
was.
ahead, Kel.
I
Yeah,
do think
please.
that with Magnolia, Aaron did have a point in saying basically, unless you actually make a stand at some point, you don't stand for anything.
Yep. Good point. But
Thank you, Kel. Yeah, yeah, it's a good point. Thank you, Kel. I don't have anything else to add to it, so let's go to Weblu.
Yeah, so for me, I think that Magnolia's reasons make a little bit of sense. I still think that she should probably join Ilveris publicly because she's already shown herself very publicly to want peace between the Drakes and the North. So it's not like it would do any more damage, I don't think, than anything else. The fact that she's not helping Ilveris out feels a little contrived, but it's enough that I can go ahead and just say, you know what, Magnolia is a loser anyways. That's kind of her character arc, is that she's kind of the biggest loser in the North, so I can just accept that. But for the brothers, I didn't like it so much because the brothers should know that Ilveris is honorable. Like, he literally rammed his walled city into Fistible's lines to go ahead and stop a genocide. He helped with the gentleman callers and protecting Lionette. Like, they of all people should be more than willing to help Ilveris, and I kind of felt like it was just a contrivance to make it so that the Sisters of Shell would be relevant in his plot or his arc. And I think that it didn't fit exactly, but I'm okay with it because it's still really cool to see where this is going.
All right, well, I still generally disagree with you for the points I brought up before, but I won't rehash that. So let's just read some comments out, and then we'll get to the other people who wish to speak. Lynn says, they are the people of the North. Ilvris is a man from South. If a warlord from South, Sala Longdame, can't protect himself and has to hire brothers of bonking people to protect himself, that's not really PogChamp, It's a weakness. It's his weakness, not theirs. It's his problem, not theirs. They don't need to help him. There's no law saying everyone has to help Warlord of Drake's City or go. His issues and problems are not theirs to solve and care about. That's a very pragmatic way to put it, Linu. Thank you. Urinalio says, I like how that brother thought Aaron was going to use his emotions for the Fallen to try and manipulate him, but actually so is inviting him to mourn. Good and bait and switch there. Yeah, Aaron would never do that, and it's good that she's showing the brothers, who she is, outside of, the Inverso ones, just to show the rest of the Brotherhood why, they follow her, basically. They come to work for her. Hans says, the brothers have little incentive to help, so I get that at least. Yeah, it's more, well, they would get paid. That is an incentive. They would get paid for it. So, Yash Ketchum says it's about risk. This was too much for them to take on, just a bad investment. Miss Kapai says, I think Magnolia's reason makes sense because she's going for a long-term, more permanent solution. Publicly throwing her weight behind a single lord that can make or break her plan is very risky, especially when it's someone who has recently changed and will be digging up treasure that makes the South stronger. She's going for the long-term play, increasing trade and friendliness between the North and South as a whole. With the quest, the North as a whole is automatically against Ilvris. Supporting him changes her plan from gradually increasing friendliness between the North and South over decades, immediately changing every noble in the North. The brothers' only reason to help is that they like Aaron. I don't see why they would risk their lives for a Drake they have no relationship with. The brothers primarily operate in the North, and the burgeoning southern operations are in Ateslia. Basically no upside for them. I think you brought up a very good point in the Magnolia, for Magnolia. Like, if she gets behind Ilvris right now, and Ilvris isn't doing something that fosters North and South relations. She's shackling herself to a cause that would hurt her own goals in getting North-South peace going. So yeah, I definitely agree with that. But anyways, let's go to Kikanalo. You wanted to speak.
So I think that Magnolia's and the brothers made good points, and I think that the big driving factor of that is that I think both of them. Okay, I'll start with Magnolia. So I think Magnolia would have found a way to help if she had been able to do it on her own terms. And I mean, so in response to like that point about Erin's point about, oh, you know, if you're not taking a stand, then you're not on any side. I think the difference is that the difference in this case is that if you're taking a stand on this matter, you're literally taking Erin's stance. And so those two things aren't, Magnolia's stance and Erin's stance aren't necessarily perfectly identical. And so Erin's basically forcing anyone who joins up at this stage to be fully in her stance, right? It basically means that if Magnolia chooses to support Ilveris, she's forsaking any middle ground or she's not being able to get involved the way she wants. It's like an all or nothing kind of thing. Whereas if a little time was given, then she would have probably, I think, found a way to give support in a helpful way on her own terms, you know, and in line with that the Mystical Pies thing about gradually increasing friendly list, right? If she was given the time, I'm sure she could have framed it that way and given aid in the proper manner, that in a way that aligned with both of their goals and really supported Ilveris. And in the same way, I think the brothers could have also been incentivized to get involved, but if the proper time was taken. I think the real issue is that the line in the sand Erin drew means that anyone who takes a stand is taking her stand, not their own stand.
Yeah, and that's one of the primary issues that Erin's quest presented with everyone. Is it really showcases her diplomatic inexperience here, where she doesn't understand that, you know, larger scale diplomacy is not, you know, hit things with a sledgehammer and get your way right away. It needs to be subtler than this. And Erin's running into her own inexperience here and her own issues because of what she did. And Magnolia's, in my opinion, and in your opinion, Kakanal, is right for not going and hitching herself to Erin right now because of how Erin framed it. All right. Yes, Ketchum, you wanted to speak next.
Yes, hi. So, of course, the guy who went before me said a lot of the things that I wanted to say. Ki Nolo, great work. Something else that I wanted to add was Ilveris right now, he's up to something, and it's very clear. Also, it's very clear how unclear he's making things for everyone. Does that make sense? Like, he's deliberately being very vague. He's giving out a lot of stories. Anyone who goes and does a little bit of background research on him will know that he's told 10 different stories to 10 different people. So, more than the people who did choose neutrality over anything else, they're not dumb. They would have done their research. And it's not like all of them want to be aggressive or want to be hostile all the time. They're very suspicious of what he's up to. Because if this is indeed an attack under the pretense of a dig, right, they've literally shot themselves in the foot. It's a risk. They don't have the facts. I think if the facts were made clear, maybe a lot more people would join in. But the facts cannot be made clear. It's just a lose-lose situation all around. So, poor Ilveris, I guess. But it's not that people or Magnolia didn't want to help him. In fact, even at this point, they would have, had they known the magnitude of what he's doing. Because right now they feel that other things overweigh his own ambition.
Yeah, it's a very good point. The other people right now are getting smoke and mirrors from Ilveris, whereas Erin wants, you know, everything out in the open. Ilveris doesn't want that right now, and it makes the diplomacy between Ilvris and the Northern Lords very difficult for him. So hopefully we'll see how Lionette can turn this around. Though at this point we're pretty much waiting for the winter solstice. So I feel like this Northern Expedition storyline will continue in Volume 10 after the winter solstice. But we'll see how it goes. Hans says, to be fair, Ilvris isn't primarily after peace with the North, but looking for anti-Azcrash weapons. For some reason, I figured Magnolia should know that and shouldn't want to help. Well, I guess I can blame Aaron for making it too risky. I do think I don't know if she knows he's anti-Azcrash. He's been pretty strict on keeping that within just a few people. So I'm not sure if she knows that. I can't remember if she knew that in the past, but she does know Ilvris is going after a walled city. At least she suspected it before, and Aaron pretty much confirmed it when she was confronted with that. But yeah, she knows he's going for like a walled city, which could be really dangerous. A Drake coming to the north to get after a walled city and going back to the south with all those treasures. That's like a risky thing for the North to let any warlord do, regardless of their affiliation. Okay, Mizian says, Nerhavia would have had Aaron guilt tripping. Shake my head. Civ Seer says, Magnolia's reason is weak. I also think it's good that she's not involved. Magnolia's plan of Ilvris coming in like a greedy Drake is terrible. She's reinforcing every stereotype that North holds of the Drakes. It's not how you make peace. It's a terrible plan. It'll work to let Ilvris make his dick site, but it won't make peace. Well, yeah, okay, this is me speaking, but just replying to that real fast, Hips here. Magnolia, that would not be like, it wouldn't further Magnolia's plan of having peace with the Drakes, but that would be a good plan for Ilvris to do. Like, she wasn't saying that, it would help with peace in any way. It would just help Ilvris do his dick site. Back to what Civseer says. Civseer says, the brothers make sense to me. Aaron is Thresher. You either die or become great. And they're drawn to like a moth to a lamp. She's offering them what they want more than anything, redemption. Ilvris is offering them money. And money is nice. Money keeps them warm and fed, but it doesn't let them sleep at night. They have other ways to get money, and protecting Ilvris is going to put a target on their back. The brothers are the definition of all in, ride or die. Hats off. If the cause isn't good, why are they going all in? It's a good point on the brothers. I like that. Bracturax says, I would have liked to see the brothers help, but staying out of it is objectively the smart decision for them, especially with their lack of coverage. They have shown hesitance to work with her in the past on big power moves, and this is an escalation in that with more ambiguous justifications and for a slim possibility of success at both surviving and the end goal. It's a bit disappointing, but not out of the blue. And yeah, the brothers need more than that to really get on her side. Jarmaro says, people being confused that brothers' refusal is extremely confusing. They suffered a lot. They are a criminal gang, first and foremost, and one charter to the game being nearly annihilated over one idealistic girl is already too much. Arian was full of hopium when she talked with them. If anything, them acting reasonably and not taking stupid risks is out of order for characters in the story. Yoda says, Aaron up to the ante for Magnolia, helping Ilvris, and Magnolia may have wanted to see if Aaron could resolve the problem herself. It's taking a burden off Magnolia's shoulders in a way, which is what Magnolia is looking for in people. Yeah, she's definitely someone who likes it when people solve their own problems rather than her having to get involved. She's made that pretty clear in the past, though I don't necessarily agree with her take on that. Anyways, I think that was a good discussion for this question. Let's move on to the next one. Now we're going to talk about some Vampires. Ooh. Vampires. Ooh. What are possible options to resolve vampires' situation in the long run? Are they going to be hunted forever? And, just any general thoughts you guys have on what happened this chapter for the vampires? Anything like that? And, I think in chat, we've talked about quite a few options. The blood bank that Fier has started in Liscor is definitely the one of the best options for getting vampires accepted. You don't even need to donate blood for a vampire blood bank. They could literally pay people to give them blood, and that would make an economic solution to one of the biggest problems with vampires. And are they going to be hunted forever? I don't see them being hunted forever, but I think it's going to take some time. It'll definitely be a reoccurring plot for a while. They're not just going to be accepted in one chapter. I think it'll take time.
I'm not sure I see. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I don't really see Delanian or Delani or D'Artien. Anyways, that guy, the hunter guy, really giving up until he's dead or has gone through something extremely traumatic or enlightening in regards to vampires. He's waited his entire life for the just mere chance to show that his family is not, crazy, to show that they're glorious, to show that they're, that their history isn't, a joke or something like that. I really liked him when he first showed up. I liked him as he was helping, but I see the makings of a real zealot, unfortunately, and that's scary, of course. But I kind of see I like the blood bank idea, and I really like the idea of Aaron somehow curing at least the Fierce closest family, and having vampires on her as her part of her court, her queenly court of Israel. So that would be fun. So I hope to see that. I hope to see more of that, and I hope to see more of Ribble as Squire.
All right. Thank you, Sidehammer. Yeah, thank you, Sidehammer. Miss Kabai says, I think they're fucked on Israel. Maybe. I actually don't agree with that, though. I do think we'll get some good things for them in the future. Yash Ketchum, what do you want to say?
Hello. So yeah, I agree. They're pretty fucked on Israel. I think it's going to be very tempting for Pirate to just have Erin, I don't know, logic her way out of this or something. But I think this is one problem that Erin cannot solve, and I think Erin is gonna have the deaths of a lot of vampires, not on her hands per se, but she's gonna feel guilty about it anyways. Like she's gonna try, and it's gonna be the same thing. Like I know I'm relating the vampire arc to Erin, but I feel like this is gonna have a big impact on her storyline. Where after Ilbris, I think she's gonna fail with Ilbris. I think Ilbris is gonna get injured because so far, because the story has just given us a very, very, very sweet, nice sort of place where Ilbris is in right now, and I think it's gonna go to shit very soon, like bigger shit than it already is in. Pardon my language, but so Erin's gonna start feeling really bad. I think the things she does is gonna adversely affect the vampires, and we might be seeing a lot of vampire deaths, and they will be forced to flee. They might take Sevi's help. I think Sevi is the one who might come in handy. You know what? I want to see a vampire eat the flesh of Tomb Home. Like,
Tomb Home? You want a Tomb Home vampire?
Yeah.
That would be terrifying.
That'll be horrible, but it's a gross experiment I want to see happen.
I'm sure it
And
has happened in the past. I wonder if it would work though.
yeah, like I'm just trying to see who all is on the chessboard at the moment where the vampires can leverage their connections. Ilvris for sure. Something that seems very obvious is they're all coming south. Maybe the Drakes, something happens to Ilvris, and then the Drakes to retaliate give shelter to vampires, and they start playing these geopolitical games, and the poor vampires become pawns in this game. But yeah, they're not. It's gonna be very sad for them. I think they're royally fucked, nobly fucked. But they're gonna stay on Israel. I don't think they'll be able to leave Israel either.
Yeah, getting out of Israel when you're being hunted by, all the major powers there would be very difficult. So
Exactly.
we'll see how it goes in that regard. I do agree with you on Ilvris is going to be, one of the key players here, and I kind of want to see if Ilvris will help them anyway, take them under his wing in any way.
More than Ilvris helping them, because he can't jeopardize his situation with the North right now. Because if he does take them in, the North is gonna like really declare war on him. More than that, I think it's gonna be more of a retaliation thing where his family does, or his father is the one who plays the politics. Because we did see his father get a lot of screen time as well. So I think there's gonna be some decisions being made by the old people which will concern the vampires.
That could happen. That's true. I can see that.
Yeah, that.
Thank you, Yash. Next up, Mizion, you wanted to speak?
Yeah, I think that as far as it goes, I think Israel is probably going to remain one of the better places for vampires. According to some other stuff that's been said, they just can't survive on Rear, and all the Shield kingdoms really, really want to kill them. So Israel is probably the safest place for them at the moment. I think what might end up happening is a sort of wider agreement similar to how the nobles and the vampires sort of rub shoulders a bit, a sort of, I'll help you, you help me, keep it secret. And that might be the current path to peace in the short term. But the issue in the long term is that there are a lot of societal barriers that come with living with a race of people who are designed to eat you. It's going to take a lot of convincing for a lot of people to have a chance there. But yeah, I think it's overall, I think they've got a decent chance of getting this sorted. I think like the first steps have been planted. My only issue is I personally don't feel that, well, they haven't really done anything wrong. So I think they're going to get their sort of redemption and get saved. So yeah.
Well, one thing about vampires being like designed to eat people, we have seen, vampires have been basically the neighbors to everyone else for generations now. So there are people like Delani, like Fedohep, who still remember the scourge that vampires caused in the past. But in most people's mind, vampires are nothing. They don't know anything about vampires right now. Delani and House Diartian and probably the Byreses it could spread rumors, could spread information about how they're blood-sucking monsters, but the vampires have history of coexisting for generations now, so they can throw out their own kind of information campaign.
I get that in the short term, and I agree in the short term, but the thing is that I personally believe that a lot of the adaptations that have been made that let them live in harmony with a lot of people are sort of unexpected side effects for the silver poisoning. Things like being able to feed on animals and not needing human blood. a big part of the worry is that pretty much the nicest vampire around. When she got cured, she immediately killed a bunch of people and then started plotting about how she can kill more people to get more blood. And as the silver poisoning fades, when the vampires move south and stop being regularly poisoned, that's going to end up being a bit of an issue. But I don't think that is going to get explored that much by the story.
Well, at the same time, Fear was a lone person dealing with this outside of her family, outside of her society in a lot of ways, and she was struggling with it all by herself. With a society that helped the rest of the vampires, they can self-police much better. They can, if other people are interacting with them, they can police them too. I think there's quite a few solutions to it, such as a blood bank, where just getting an economic reason to have people give you their blood just for paying for blood, that could solve a lot of the issues that people might have. That's just another source of income for them. If they can sell their blood to vampires, it's not going to be too bad for them.
The
That,
older
I think,
vampires.
I think that gets into some pretty squicky territory, because you would see the people who are poor and desperate basically becoming cattle for the vampires, because they're the only ones who would need money badly enough to do that. But otherwise, I think what you were talking about with the self-policing thing, I think it becomes like the vampire version of the Selfids Manassian Wall,
Uh,
where
imagine
you
Garrett.
get a chance, but if you break these rules, then we will come after you, and the entire world will come after you, and there'll be nothing left.
My only issue with that way of thinking is that the current vampires couldn't stop a bunch of their kids from destroying a noble house. So I'm not confident in their ability to stop any vampires from doing the sucky.
Oh, I don't disagree with you there, because I think once you have communities all together, you're going to get more people like Rivel. Like, if they feel like they can actually congregate instead of living in relatively small groups that are scattered around, that it will actually result in more factionist behavior, and you will end up with more people who decide, hey, we're actually superior, so we're going to go on a murder spree.
Well, the thing is, the reason they went after the Byries is because of generations of genocide attempts from the Byries to just kill all vampires, and they just learned that they've been poisoned for generations. Their entire lives they've dealt with issues that are uniquely caused by the Byries. So it's like they just learned that they've been targeted their entire lives. That getting people to not attack them is, it makes sense to me, because the desire for revenge for something like that would be overwhelming in a lot of people. But I feel like controlling themselves and controlling their actual thirst would be easier to do, as long as you have a society set up where they could actually get some blood from people. And as to what you said, Kel, about people becoming lower class, poor people becoming more like cattle to them, it's like at the same time, vampires really desire levels. And I don't want to be like offensive to poor people, but I don't think many poor people in TWI have high levels. So I feel
But
like
what's the impetus for anybody who is high level to give their blood to a vampire?
just
There's nothing.
money. There is, if you
What
pay
do the
more for
vampires
high.
have that would be enough for a high level person to give their money to vampires and risk empowering them further?
Well, it's just we don't actually know really because like we haven't really seen how Inworld feels about giving blood. You know, in several societies on Earth, there are some religious and cultural issues with giving blood up, but I don't think we've gotten too much in-depth look into how Inworlders feel about that. Maybe
Well, we know
the
that there is blood magic, and from what Pisces has said, that doesn't seem to exactly be well received.
that's true.
And there is like blood contracts, which are something that Rochelle uses.
That's true, but I still don't think we have a good cultural look into how a blood drive would go. You know, we've got it in list score, and it seems to be doing well. So I want to say that it's not too culturally anathema right now. So that's kind of why I think if vampires would be willing to, you know, if they're willing to work for the nobility, if they're willing to pay large sums of money for higher level blood, you know, people would be willing to give it to them. That's just my off the cuff thought, though. I'm not saying that's going to be where the story goes, but that's just kind of how I'm feeling right now.
What we need to happen is that vampires need to discover that their blood has healing powers, like in a bunch of other vampire stories, and then they can just be the medics, and they'll get their food that way.
That'd be interesting if vampire blood is like a substitute for air gel and
Or
healing
their
potions.
saliva, they lick the wounds and they
Yeah.
go away. Be some weird thing like that, like in a bunch of other stories, vampire stories.
Something else that I think we're kind of overlooking is that the blood banks are owned by the city. They're not owned by the vampires. It wouldn't be like people giving money to vampires. It'd be people giving money to the city or blood to the city, and then the city would profit when vampires pay for it. So I'm just throwing that out there that it's not exactly like, there's an incentive to turn people into human cattle. It's something else, because especially since the medical industry is going to get revamped, it's all tied to a whole bunch of different stuff.
Yeah.
And there's no doubt that the vampires can definitely, they can tell a lot of things about the blood. Remember, so I think they'd be very helpful with Geneva. So they have a future with Geneva.
The vampires we saw definitely could, you know, work with blood very well compared to other people. All right, Kekanalo, you wanted to speak.
So, I mean, one thing I just wanted to say was that I think I really hope that this entire situation doesn't get some clean tie off with a bow where Eren posts a nice, happy quest and everyone sings Kumbaya. I really think that, like, this should not have an easy resolution, and I'm down for some good vampire genocide, to a point, I think that if this plot, I mean, that's a little bit of a joke, but if this plot line, just ends with, a few vampires die and then the issue gets resolved, it's like a real waste for all this buildup. I mean, just from an approximate, I think if this results in like 80% of the population dying and the remaining 20% like having a good solid future somewhere, I think that's like a reasonable point, like somewhere around there. But I'm just really hoping that this doesn't get some clean solution. Someone just declares they're protecting them, because I mean, this is like, in the view of most of the world, a scourge like on the level of goblins from their own time, right? Like Noelictus was like founded on hunting them, and then all the Shield Kingdoms hate them with like such a passion, and then entire noble houses on Israel are built around them. And so, it would be really unsatisfying if, like, I mean, I know Laws was a bit like hesitant about I don't want to give up the names, but that wasn't because he believed vampires were good. It was because he didn't know if they were actually vampires. Like, it would be really unsatisfying if, like, Yvonne suddenly was like, "Oh, Eren says they're nice, so I'm good with them," and like just throws away the entire family history. Like, so I just hope that there isn't some clean resolution to this.
Well, I don't think for individual characters it's too much to say that they're willing to trust Eren over their family history. Like for Yvonne, I would expect Yvonne to trust Eren when she talks about vampires. You'll always, he's part of the Order of Solstice. I kind of would trust you'll always to give them a chance at this point. I think he will still be very prejudiced against them, but for him specifically, I do think he'll give them a chance, specifically because of Aaron. For everyone else, though, I don't think there's going to be an easy solution. I don't think Aaron will be able to just magic this away. I do think it will be something that's, boiling under the surface for a while.
I
I don't-
have quite a contrary opinion to that. I think Elos is the one who's going to struggle the most. And we might see Delaney. He did get the class, but we often see people getting a class that they don't require, because Delaney did think hard on why the vampire had said, "Why did you have to look?" He did think about how the vampire had just been living a normal life, not hurting anyone, before Delaney found him with his crazy antics. Like, they were normal, they were fine, they were quite unintrusive. This was Delaney has just picked at a really, really, really old wound, and now it's now it's about to kill the whole bloody body. So I think Delaney will be easier to sort of bring or knock some sense into instead of Elos. Elos does well and truly believe at this point that he's been given a noble mission to learn about his family, and the more he learns about the origins of his family, the more it's going to cement his belief that they are evil. And and I think this is going to give him a lot of problem, because he wants to stay in the order as well, right? But the order is against this. So we might see him leaving the order, maybe coming back. There's going to be a lot of drama there. But yeah, like, it's quite contrary to what you were saying.
Yeah, I definitely disagree in that Delaney is easier to convince than you'll always. Like, I'm getting the exact opposite feeling here, because Delaney is someone who spent his entire life hunting shadows, and these shadows are people who have not done anything to him. He's only heard stories from the past, like from generations and generations ago, that would make him think they're terrible. And he spent his entire life still hunting them. So I feel like Delaney is far
So I
enough
have
gone that he will
a
never change.
perspective to offer here, right? So one of the things my dad always says is, now this applies to Indian society in particular, but I think it sort of has connotations here as well. When someone has nothing else to be proud of, that's when they're proud of their caste. So I think with Delaney, because he has nothing else to be proud of or nothing else to tie his identity to, he has tied his identity to his house's mission, or this ancient mission of his ancestors. Right, because he himself is lacking in identity. I think the more he finds it, because this is the first time he's had to confront his own beliefs about something very strongly. And I really think that it's going to be easier, not easier, like, it's not going to be easy, but we'll see him come to a conclusion before Elos. I think Elos may never actually come to a conclusion, and we may see him becoming an enemy of the inn. It sounds horrible, but I don't know. It's good drama.
I think that it's not really fair to say that Delaney's, just off chasing something. It's not some myth he's chasing. He's chasing it, like, a real known evil, that, yes, is not been seen for a long time, but a real known evil. So he's not. I think he's getting a bad rap.
Well, it is a myth at this time. Like, they've been gone so long that the vast majority of people don't know about them. Like, even the noble houses barely think about them anymore. They don't tell too many stories about them. He was literally hunting myths at that point.
The thing about Yelos is that I don't believe I agree with you, Wiggles, in that he's probably going to be or sort of end up pro-vampire. I think that if he was going to sort of go against his prejudices, he would have had a different reaction when he met his sort of crazed ancestor. And I feel like if we wanted to push him in that way, then somebody would have died when his house got attacked, but the whole mines collapsed, the houses were, the farms were burned, the manor was blown up, and nobody got hurt. So there's not really any reason for proper revenge. So that's why I think that Elos is going to remain, fairly in-aligned, and we're not going to have any huge drama about any of it, because really the attack didn't kill anyone. So everything sort of negative that's been done can be put under the bridge.
Well, I do think the Yulawis will struggle with it. Like, I do think there will be some drama between him and the Order, and Rivel in particular. I do think he will have issues with them. I just think everyone will be able to move past them. All right, let's read some comments out now. Jamaro says, vampires have a track record comparable to dragons and goblins when it comes to living in peace with others, so their extinction is pretty much a matter of time. Just ship them off to a plane of blood or some bullshit place like that, otherwise they're going to get more shafts inside them than Aaron got. That's a bloodthirsty opinion right there. Linu says, I have 3 ideas. Credible, Legions of Radiance, the sun-drenched of Kaunus, survive that, bloodsuckers, easy and forsooth. Edit, to honor Antinium way of thinking, if vampires wanted to have bright futures, then why do they burn in the sun? Curious. Less credible, they should be sent to Rekir. Demon Kingdom would welcome them, unless Sylvania doesn't like them. Then they would die on the sea. Hellfire Pillar goes burr. As cruel as it is, it solves the problem one way or another. Hey, like they say, if it sounds stupid but works, then it's not stupid. Edit, if Fedohep remembers the scourge of vampires and demons as well for 100%. Just send them to Monarch's Pass. That's a great place for them. And completely non-credible, kindness, being nice to them, and treating them like people. Alright, Linu, come on. That's not non-credible. Jeez. Thedicron says, give the vampires to the gnolls. Actually, here's a better one. Give them the Chaldean. Nothing can go wrong. Alright, Thedicron. Alright. Han says, you always had on-screen doubts about the vampire hate, so I'm confident he'll get involved in a good way. I believe in him since he's the main himbo of the story. Also pretty confident the doubts expressed after the first vampire died were by Pelmia, not Delaney. I'm pretty sure there was a... Here, let me find it. It was a guilt thing. Something guilt. Yeah, so Delaney says, Delaney thought, how dare he look so guilty? Only for a moment did the vampire hesitate and take in what he'd done. So at least Delaney knew that he saw that the vampire at least looked guilty. So that is kind of humanizing the Alberin. Wellvu says, I absolutely love the misdirection with the spies. That was a real million IQ play, and will plant a seed of doubt in anyone that would join the hunt. I think the vampires might eventually need their own moment on TV, like when Aaron stood up for goblins, but I feel like this plot will develop over the course of a volume or 2 before resolving. Yeah, I'll agree on the volume or 2 thing. I think this is going to be more of a plot for volume 10 than it is for the end of volume 9 right now. Rhythm Brews, go ahead and speak.
All right. Yeah, I think it's kind of it's a really interesting point where the vampires are at right now, because I think it could go in a lot of different directions, because as someone pointed out, they've been there for a while, and so you're going to have some people going, vampires, kill them. You're going to have some people going, but Bob's been here for 30 years and never hurt anybody. What's going on? And everything in between. And so I think there's going to be a lot of trying to figure out what to do, and there's a big chance for that to shake out in the short term. And then there's going to be a second phase of that, which may or may not be separate, but when people like Fedohep and like places that have longer memories, because Israel doesn't have a long memory. No one has a long memory in Israel. other nations like that. Other nations have long memories, but not anyone in Israel. People in Israel barely remember what happened 50 years ago, and so vampires are essentially new, and you're going to have a lot of chaos in trying to figure it out, and so it could go any of these random directions. So I think there's going to be a little bit of tug of war about how to do that. I don't really predict how it's going to shake out. I think that they're also, if they come out into the open, they're useful. I mean, they're even uncured, they're pretty powerful. Like they it was an army of level 30 people that attacked the buyers. So there's going to be stuff to do for them if they come out.
Yeah, there's absolutely societal, there's societal use for vampires as a species. They could fit in if they could manage to throw up some walls like the Selfids did. There's definitely useful situations for them. Hans replied to Jamaro by saying, I think shipping them to Anadalmus makes more sense than a blood plane. Riss wouldn't have a moral problem with them. And yeah, I was actually thinking about this earlier, but the situation they have with Vizofficin and the death row inmates kind of would help them get blood for the vampires. Tavares says, a New Lands vampire settlement would make a lot of sense. It's a place with no history, and they could hide. They're also a lot more likely to survive than regular people. The other option is, as people said, basically becoming people's super troops. Aaron already has one. Han says, I do think Ilvris will get involved too, but I have no real argument for it. It's just Doyleist analysis because of this chapter being about Ilvris, but also vampires for some reason. He needs miners, Vampires are super strong. I bet they make great miners. John Morrow says, recall the vampire Kraken. Vampires are unhinged. Don't trust them. Listen, plenty of humans have been unhinged in the past too. I still trust humans overall. Sivseer says, I want Listgore to shelter them. Something that goes understated by readers is the development of Listgores, the cities, and character development. I can absolutely see the council preempting Erin and making preparations, have them move in, and then setting up a meeting with Erin and flooring her. Listgore is rapidly becoming more liberal as the series goes on. It won't surprise me if they go all in, giving me all in on give me your huddled masses. We've seen them take in gnolls, ants, even goblins to a lesser degree. The vampires are pretty chill, and people don't really know what vampires did. The Silverfangs don't even remember the name. It's old families that remember, and the mortals who know their crimes. That said, historians exist. They'll be able to dig up records about the Reign of Blood. I honestly think the vampires resist the idea more than Listgore because the Silverfangs live there. It'll be interesting to see how the Silverfangs react, because I disagree with you. I do think the Silverfangs remember vampires and their shamans, at least. I think Sitar, I hope that's the name is right, but I think she hinted at vampires at some point and them still remembering them. So maybe most Silverfangs don't remember, but I think their oral tradition still has some vampire stories in it. Tafar says, I want to see a vampire take the approach of, so what? I'm not threatening you. I've just been a helpful person in this small town, with a talon rallying around them, and see what happens then. Jarmaro replies, except vampires have a lot of history on Israel, it's hard to stand for your neighbor when it turns out he's secretly a member of Israel's equivalent of Ku Klux Klan. I really don't like that comparison because, it's completely different, because the Ku Klux Klan is something you have to, you're not born a Ku Klux Klan. You have to become a member of it, and you can leave whenever you want. And I just don't like that. Comparison. Mystical Pie says, maybe I'm misunderstanding the mechanic, but if vampires are fully cured, they could steal levels from donated blood. No, we don't know. We haven't seen Fier ever steal levels from donated blood, so I want to say no and right now, but yeah. Jamaro says no, they suck from people. Blood is just food. Yeah, for right now, that's how I'm treating it, but we don't super know. Hans replies to Jamaro by saying, I mean, it's not exactly the same since one is having a specific belief and the others is like a species, but I do agree with you that they should not expect too much from support from backwards farmers. Maybe it's just my prejudice talking, though. Tomio says we should kill all vampires. Clearly there is no happiness in TWI. And Tomio, just to let you know, we're going to talk about the Walled Sea of Aaron in just a moment. And Jamaro says, reply to Hans, Knights of Blood were about vampires treating everyone as lesser than them, treating people as cattle, and making literal farms of people of blood with people inside. That's Rochal level of domination. Vampires are a species, but they have a track record of falling towards belief of their own superiority, like on Israel or Chandra. But that is centuries past. It's generations past right now, and you have generations of vampires coexisting with their neighbors. That you can't ignore that too. Like that's there in the present. Those neighbors have known them their whole lives. That's more recent and more vivid to all those backwards farmers than that ancient history of their horrible empire. Tavares says it's more like some old ass society from the Roman times or something, and they've been your neighbor and saved your life. Exactly. I definitely agree with that sentiment, Tavar. Mizian replies to Jamaro by saying, IRC, if I remember correctly, vampires had a global army, which just dealt with in different ways. Vampires ruling on Belarus got kicked out by Selvids. On Chandrar, the Cross and Shield Kingdoms went rip and tear. They can't live on here. Turandria had Nelictus, and Israel freed themselves using well seeding to weaken the ruling vampires. Luna says, to be fair, my only issue with vampires is that they suck levels and need to drink blood. They stop drinking people's blood and stop sucking levels. Treat vampires, then I won't have problems with them. Unless Sylvania says vampire is bad, then vampire is bad. Okay, Luna, what if Sylvania says vampires are the greatest ever? We should love vampires. I already know the answer. You don't need the answer. I already know what it is, but still. Jarmaro says, vampires forced to coexist due to being severely weakened. Would it work if they were at their usual power? We don't know if it's going to work, but right now, they have coexisted for a long time. Missile Pie replies to Jarmaro by saying, we know that every species has believed this at some point. Every species has tried to take over the world. Someone at some point. Thedacron says, vampires can easily coexist as they are now, but we need some forward-thinking people to plan on regulating them if, in the far future, vampires start getting the silver out of their system and start getting their full powers and thirst back. If a true vampire has levels, they should probably be executed since you can't really get levels as a vampire ethically. Well, we really don't know how they get levels, honestly. Like, we know you can suck them out of a person, and that person might die during the process. But we haven't gotten that super explored. I would be curious to see what the exact conditions are for it. Mizian replies to Mystical Pie by saying, vampires were stated to be the worst of all big empires, which is why they got killed. Sivseer replies to Thedacron by saying, it'll be very ironic if you can only trust a vampire with levels if they have criminal class like Bandit. Linu says, then the vampires are going to be the greatest ever, and we should love them. But Zeth told us what is the correct way to treat Sylvania's words. We do not question her. Thank you, Linu. I could not have guessed that answer in a million years. Thank you. Yoda says, they've been coexisting recently besides sacking Lord's mansion and killing a bunch of people during questioning. I don't... Okay, well, the questioning, those are individual actions. I'm not going to... Are we blaming like all of humans and all of Drakes because of the Blood Feast Raiders? Like, their actions of groups and individuals over actions of an entire species. You can't compare those two things. Kikanalo says, the fact that they were somehow even worse than the Selphid Empire is a decent argument for wiping them out. From an in-world history perspective, they really shouldn't have many defenders. Well, yeah, that back then when that empire was fresh, that would be a good argument. But right now, they've coexisted for a very long time and haven't come back and been evil empire number 2. Thedacron says, I blame all humans for Tyrion Veltros and their lack of plumbing. Okay. Thedacron, okay. Mizian says, do we blame all the Byries for the actions of their ancestors? The vampires don't blame them for the actions of their ancestors. They blame them for the actions that they're currently taking today and well seeding with silver. You know, that's something they continue to do. That's why they're blaming the Byries. Kikanalo says the Byries' ancestors were gigachads. I don't know about that, but okay. We've talked about this question for 40 minutes, I think, at this point. Yeah, 40 minutes. So we're going to move on once I get done with this last bit. Yoda says, I agree you can't treat an individual as just being part of a group, but most people won't know the individual or what the individual has done, just what the vampires sacked the Lord's mansion. Public opinion will be against them. But at the same time, you have individuals who have lived with these vampires for years and years, and they know them. You know, so they are much more likely to view that other group as being separate from the vampires they know. Anyways, let's go on to the truly important part of this chapter, the one that I've been waiting for Tomio to be here to talk about. How do you feel about the walled city of Aaron Solstice? What did you think about that entire section? What, Tomio, if you're sad, I'm sorry. I've heard that you've been extremely sad about what happened to your great Ilvris and Aaron Chip. But yeah, this was actually, in my opinion, one of the best romantic scenes we've seen in the story, just because it really explored what they were both feeling, and they were very honest with each other, and it was just very nice. I liked it. Even if it killed the ship, well, it killed, in my mind, I know some people have some very different thoughts on this, but in my mind, it thoroughly killed the ship, and I'm fine with that. But yeah, I really enjoyed the scene. It was really good to me. Linu says, what the fuck is Walled City of Aaron Solstice? That's my entire take on it. Linu, I implore you to go reread the end of the chapter. Even though you thought it was a 1.5 out of 10, you'll like it rereading it, I'm sure. Or, you don't have to do that. Anyways, Sivsir says, laugh my ass off. Get wrecked, Tomio. Poor Tomio. And yeah, she wanted to speak.
I loved this part. This was so cute. I don't think it. Okay, this is very controversial, but I don't think the ship is dead yet. Because we don't know what Erin's romantic preferences are. Like, this might just be extremely platonic love that both of them are very interested in having. And Erin doesn't need to find love. You get what I'm saying? Like, she can be. I don't think Erin is built that way. I don't think Erin, that's her circuitry. So I like this. I really like this for Erin. My ship is not dead at all. Like, I think this is the start of a very new, wonderful beginning. But I did not think it would be Ilvris, to be very honest. Like, I actually didn't think it would be anyone from InWorld. I don't think Erin is mature enough to have relationships at this point. Asexual as they may be. But yeah, like, it's nice that she's the talk was beautiful. The talk was absolutely lovely. Like, ever. This was one of my favorite chapters, like ever. I wish we get more. And I want to come to the walled city of Erin. You know what? I think she's secretly very scared of finding out what's inside. Well, I'll tell you why. I think I have a secret theory. Well, it's not that secret, but I have a theory that Erin is a psychopath. And all this caring about people, doing things that matter, um, I think it's what she believes an ideal human being should act like because she does not know how to human. So, yeah, that's just my take. I think that's why she's not able to form, especially when it comes to romantic relationships. I think that's one of the reasons that stumped her. Not because she's asexual. Asexuality has nothing to do with being psychopath. Uh, but because I don't think she relates to what normal emotions are, but tries to emulate them so much so that she's lying to herself about it. But the walled city of Erin, she figures out that she has no emotions. She's blank. But yeah.
All right, I was with you, Yash. Like for the first half, I was with you. I was like, okay, this is pretty good take. And I agree with you that it could be a platonic relationship, and that could be just what she looks for in the future, like just a more platonic relationship rather than a full-on romance. And we saw with like the whole walled city of Erin reference that Erin really doesn't have a crack in that wall right now. And Erin's not going to be able to find who she wants right now if she ever gets a crack there. But then the whole sociopath thing came up, and I'm just like, I'm laughing over here because I don't agree with that at all. Like, I don't think Erin could be a sociopath. Maybe she views things differently. I'll give you that. I do think she views things very differently, but I don't see her being a true sociopath.
It's
Aaron,
just a theory. If I'm right, I'll bet $1,000 on it.
Aaron, I'll take that bet. Aaron has way
Oh
too
my
much
God.
empathy. Aaron
Wait,
has way too
no.
much empathy.
If you're
To
right, I'll give you $1, but if I'm right, you have to give me $1,000.
what? No, that's not how it works.
Look at the odds.
That's not how it works. No.
Oh my god! All right.
Aaron has way too much empathy. Her literal powers are an exact argument
It's an
against it.
emulation of empathy. Like, look at her empathy. Nobody can be that. Like, it's, I don't know, I feel it's kind of fake. Or
okay,
maybe
so
I'm just trying to make the story more interesting.
I don't view it as fake empathy, but like I don't think you can fake it that much. I really don't. Like
I
that would
think you
be
can lie to yourself.
maybe.
I think in the Watsonian sense, Aaron is an incredibly loving person, but in the Doylist sense, Aaron was the star of a comedy isekai, and she wasn't set up to have a love relationship in the beginning, and now it's just a lot of backtracking and rewriting and retconning.
I don't think it's retconning at all. Like she just never has been interested in that, or not interested. She just never found anyone that she could have that interest with. I don't think that's necessarily a retcon. It's just something she's still working on to this day.
I honestly don't think Pirate had thought that far ahead when they started writing the story, and by the time it got to where everything was becoming a lot more real, that they started to have to consider it and make character shifts and changes and excuses for past actions. Personally, but within the story, I do think she's an incredibly loving person. I do think she'll find someone.
If Pirate didn't want Erin to have a relationship, she wouldn't be exploring this sort of thing.
No, I agree, but I don't think that decision was made back
Well,
when
just like
some of the foundation of it.
If Pineapple didn't want Aaron to ever get into a relationship, it was already set up like that. You know, it was already set up like Aaron never getting a relationship. She could have just gone, or Pirate Abbott could have just gone the rags route and just said Aaron has no interest in this whatsoever. But I mean, and that would not require like a quote unquote retcon, which I still don't agree with that sentiment. But I don't think a romance is unplanned, more that it's something that they were always going to set up much later. Anyways, Webflu, you wanted to speak.
Yeah, so I very much love the scene. I don't think the ship is sunk, but I do think it's like anchored, if you want to go with a metaphor. Because you got that part where Ilvris and was saying, "Well, I'm still in love with Paris. It's only been a year and a half, and I haven't been able to let go of that flame. I'm not ready to go on." And then Erin, with her whole thing being like, "Well, I don't know what the next step looks like. I don't know what it's like." It's just both of them acknowledging that whatever's going on, they're not ready for moving on to any sort of romantic interests, and they're just both accepting it. And I really love that it's Ilvris and Aaron both having this conversation about that, because I think they're perfect for it. I'm also really happy that someone else thought that Aaron was a sociopath, because I had that theory a very long time ago. But I do think it was more just to Pirate Autumn not really dealing with the character well, as opposed to actually intending to make her a sociopath. I think that she's not a sociopath, but that it was written in such a way that someone could reasonably interpret it that way if they looked a little too closely. But I overall really love the scene.
I don't understand the sociopath thing.
Vindication. I am vindicated.
Okay. Apparently, this is a theory that multiple people have arrived at independently of one another. So I'll give you that there's some reading to it, but I personally don't see it at all. But let's move on to some of the comments. Germaro says, "Of course, the ship is dead. Ilvris is only for Magnolia ship." I don't know if I've ever seen Ilvris X Magnolia before. I'm trying to think. I probably have. But I don't know if that would work out in the end. And Sivseer has a gigantic post. Let's go through this. Sivseer says, "The walled city of Solstice, such a brain teaser that I'm still chipping away at it. My read at the moment is Erin is ultimately defined by her shame and fear. She's guilty for all the death in her name, for good or ill. She still feels guilt for every statue in her garden. Garden, such a fantastic cruelty. A chance to see your every mistake is fantastic. She's tired. She's pushing herself as much as she can, and the cracks are showing. Fighting the gods, the south, the north, Rochelle. Fighting for the turnscales, for goblins, for Nantinium, for vampires. She picks up causes like people drink water, and like Magnolia said, she doesn't know she can refuse to put more on her plate. She's fighting for her body even to stand. She's exhausted and she's still swinging. But most of all, Erin is afraid. Afraid for herself, afraid of what's coming, what she knows she must do. Afraid of the day where she says, 'Hold the line,' and sends someone to die. Afraid of herself and the violence that comes so easily. Afraid for all of her friends." Love is different for Erin. It's letting someone in, letting them see her, not the masks she wears, showing them Erin Solstice, exposing her soul to them. The kindness, the cruelty, the genuine thoughtlessness, pettiness, and empathy. She's afraid she'll open up and they'll turn away in disgust that after all she's done, she doesn't deserve it. That's why she says it must be love at first sight, a storm that takes her by surprise and never lets her go. Because if it's anything less than that perfect storm, she'll have to work for it. She'll have to learn how to take down her walls, not build them up, and she's just tired. You know, that's a very poignant point you make there, Sivseer, that Erin, if she ever wanted to really, really get romantic with someone, she needs to take down those walls herself, and it's something that she just can't do right now because of all the things that are on her plate. And I really wonder if this upcoming solstice event will kind of break her in more ways than one. Like if it doesn't go well, or if some of her friends die, whatever happens, and it doesn't go perfectly, I think we could see her really breaking down quite a bit. Kikanalo says, pushing herself less might be a good thing if it made her less stupid. Thedacron says, so Aaron gets called naive about romance a lot. I think most of what she said this chapter was just genuinely how she is. She talked about how love was seeing someone's true garden and showing her own, because I think that's exactly how she'd act. She chose to enter a relationship truly, not like the one she had on Earth. She'd show that person everything, the stuff she hides from even her closest family members and friends, her fears and her trauma too. That's a lot of investment. I don't think she'd do well with the complication or breakup, hence her unwillingness to even try. Yeah, that's a really big issue with her, and what a lot of what Civ's here was talking about too. Tavar replies to Civ's here by saying, I really want to see the time where Erin can't afford to put more on her plate, what it is she's willing to say, I can't do this. That'll be a big day for Erin, I think. I'm surprised we haven't heard from Tomio. Jeez. Tomio. Give us your take of your ghost ship that's now sunk at the bottom of the sea and destroyed and pulverized, scattered across 100 miles. Oh, Tomio says a moment. We might get to hear it. We might get to hear from Tomio. Leo says, wait, so that was the reason why he was sad, because of Aaron X Ilvris? I thought I missed something in Chappie. No, Tomio was an Aaron X Ilvris shipper for a long time. And yeah, then this chapter kind of happened.
I think I have to agree with that a bit, though. Not the psychotic part, but the part where the ship isn't quite sunk yet. I think there's a possibility it could open up again, but even though they both decided to put it down. Go for it, Tom.
Couldn't hear you if you were trying to speak, Tomio. We just heard like a odd staticky sound.
Okay.
Hello.
Hello, Tomio. Yep.
Pain. Pain is circulating and radiating within my body. I am extremely disappointed, and there's no word to describe this unbearable feeling. I have supported him for so long. Now it's over. It's confirmed so undeniably that there's nothing I can say, there's nothing I can justify to be real. That's it.
Alright, that was much sadder than I thought, Tomio. Much sadder. Much sadder. I'm patting you on the head right now with my gift. It's going to be okay.
You are very, very happy right now, Wiggle.
I'm not happy.
Never been a supporter of ships. And
well, that's true.
I will mock you. And all of you. I will now enter my villain phase.
Okay. Listen, I'm not happy. Stop saying I'm happy, as Tomio says he said. I'm not happy that Tomio is sad, alright? I'm sad on Tomio's behalf, even if I don't like ships. How about that? Tomio, it's gonna be okay. Lots of people seem to still have hope in the ship. So hey, maybe it will come back from the dead one day. I don't know. I don't see it, but...
Don't do that. Don't give me hope.
Hope is the worst, isn't it, huh? Oh well. It's okay, Tomio. You have plenty of other ships. I know you do. One of those ships will come true one day. One of them will sail out to sea, and yeah, it'll happen. I know it will. Lindu says, I didn't know that. Also, I was trying to come up with Walled City of Solstice, but the concept makes a little sense for me. City of Shields is better than City of Solstice. Lindu, it's in the chapter. Okay, so look. I'll read the passage out to you. Ilvris saw it then, and he leaned back as if staring up at his own image, as if he could see that wild affection like a flame rising high, but only the tips of it. The rest was behind the wall, a grand wall built of great deeds and sorrows and trauma. What a magnificent walled city. What's that? Oh, I'm just imagining the walled city of Aaron Solstice, an impregnable fortress that Manus would envy. It's about Aaron's issues with romance and connecting to people. She's a walled city. It's hard for her. Thethercron says, Wiggle sounding so happy as he says Tomio sad. I was not happy, Thethercron. I can guarantee it. All right. I was gonna throw something at you, but you're behind a screen.
We can hear the smile in your
Listen.
voice right now.
No,
Look at that! Look at that!
No, I am not happy. All right, not happy. Let's move past it. Sibs here says, I am happy. It's very funny. Well, there you go. Someone's happy. Ernalio says, I hope the walled city of Aaron Solstice never follows. That way I can pretend she's asexual. I mean, she could still be asexual. You know, she could just be in a romantic relationship that's not sexual. That happens. That's what some asexuals do. Tavar says, Wiggles ex Tomio, Womio. Okay. Linu says, Wiggles, I'm not happy, and a bunch of jumping people. Listen, I'm not jumping in joy, okay? And Tomio says, one of them was Fiera ex Yawis, so ... Yeah. Listen, one of the ships will happen. It'll happen one day, okay, Tomio? I'm sure.
Walled city of Wiggles.
Listen, I'm not happy. Stop it. Linu says she should take example from Sylvania and hug people and tap happy cats on the nose. That would chill her. Leathercon says, Walled City of Aaron Solstice versus Walled City of Shields. Which is stronger? Well, the Walled City of Shields is, strewn about the crossroads right now, and Aaron was revived from the dead, so I think we can all say that Aaron Solstice is stronger. It sounds good, right? Yeah.
I picture Aaron as a walled city with, like, the Sauron eyeball above the city, but with one of her memory fires up there.
That's a great image. Oh, man.
And the eyeball is wearing the hat.
Yes, the shy hat. The shy hat. It was a funny part of the scene. Just, she took her hat off and it burned in her hands shyly. The hat's burning shyly. That's just a funny
That
image.
suggests that she learned a new fire.
Yes. All right. Mystical Pie replies Ernalio by saying she could still be Ace, but not Arrow. Yeah, that's... Yeah. Ernalio says you pronounce it Ye Lawis. No, I pronounce it Ye Lawis. Ye Lawis. Ye Lawis. But yes, I probably pronounce it wrong. I don't care. It's how I pronounce it in my head. Tomio says, time to start writing a bunch of Pisces X Yazdil fanfics. Please don't, Tomio. That comes from the bottom of my heart. Don't hurt us like that. Krunk says, Aaron equal Mordor? Yes. Linu says, Wiggles, it's not how you measure it. We gotta take Walled City of Shields, or whatever is left of it, and then yeet it at Aaron. Whoever survives is stronger. Good point. Good point. Feathercron says, Harry Potter, Dumbledore said calmly. That's a funny scene in those movies. But yeah. Alright. this has gone on for an hour and 40 minutes now. We did cover quite a lot of the chapter, though. Unfortunately, we got through like 3 questions. While there's quite
I
a
did have a random thought though. Like before we close, I wanna ask something. I didn't realize Ilvris and Erin were so close. Like I get that Ilvris owes her a lot, but I didn't realize they're such good friends. I mean, they mentioned it in the story as well that they've never really talked one on one. So like, I don't understand their familiarity. Like, where is it coming from? And that is why my ship is alive. Wahaha.
I think of it just as like Aaron was part of Ilvers's life when he was going through something like the worst point of his life, basically, after Paris just died, and Aaron met him when he was at his lowest point, and she helped. In her own way, she helped him get through that just by being an annoying person who didn't respect him greatly, but uh, was willing to show him new stuff and gave him a new outlook on life. And they didn't spend a lot of I don't think they spent any one-on-one time when Ilvers was in the inn while he was in Lisgore, but she was definitely a very big part of his stay at Lisgore. She interacted with him a lot, and I think that just carried over to how he changed once he went back to Salazar, and that's developed into a closeness that he feels towards her.
Yeah, the sheer fact that he's not, or that she's not impressed by his rank, was something that he was, or something he needed in that time, because everyone is either looking up to him or thinking him as an enemy or something. That's at least what he was stating in this one, is that he was having trouble just dealing with being a warlord at all, and that was where the friction with his father came from.
Yeah.
So
just the fact that Aaron was treating him as a person rather
Yeah.
than treating him as a warlord was something he was not used to, and it really helped him at that point in time.
And I think
I
for
also
Aaron,
have a bit
Oh.
of sorry, go on.
I was say on Aaron's point, I think she just liked having someone who she could talk to, who also wasn't completely awed by her actions, and who would call her on her own shit. And maybe he wasn't the best at that. I think Leonette is, but she can overwhelm most anybody. But Elvis was secure enough in his power, his personal confidence or strength, that he wouldn't bolt over. And I think that let him be someone she could talk to as an equal as well. So I think that's where it comes from her angle.
The thing is, so the thing is, initially when we were introduced to the character of Ilbris, right, he had a very strong personality. He was spoiled, he was rich, a very typical warlord. And then we see him change. But what we're seeing is not a personality, but an antithesis of a personality that already existed. He's kind of bland now. Like, I'm ready for people to come at me. But Ilbris right now seems extremely lost. Like, the only thing, or maybe it's because I haven't seen him go through the grief of losing, or because when he was still a main character in the story, right, we were on that journey of grief with him. And that became a very significant part of his personality, his character. Right now, the things that do define, like, he's not particularly funny, or he's not particularly, I don't know. I try to think of him as a character, and it's just a Drake who's a warlord. Like, as a personality, I'm not able to think of much.
Yeah, I have to say he
Very
does
strong
kind of.
personality. Aaron was his rebound. She negged him, and it worked. I don't know.
He actually does sort of seem like an extension of Aaron's philosophy, just in a direct form.
Like,
In a
I
direct
feel like
form.
he's borrowing a lot from what Eren already is. and sort of modifying it to fit his situation.
I think that's fine for right now. Like as we get more of him, I think we'll get more of his own unique personality back. But right now, he's still a little bit lost, and he's still finding himself more. And I think that's fine. He's a bit bland right now, but just give it time. I say, give it
I think
time.
his criticizing of the inn, or not the inn, of the resort and the beach was kind of a little step back towards him being more like his old self, or showing more his
Yeah,
personality.
Yeah,
that
So
was
I think
entertaining.
there's more to come. But
he's definitely being blander right now while he's just come to the end because he wants to, make a quote unquote good impression this time around. So it's definitely part of like him just trying to be a more bland person at this point in time. So I do think
Exactly.
he'll show him more of himself later.
Because now, if I'm analyzing my ship, right, do I like this ship because of how the two people complement each other, or is it just one person I like, and this ship has two of those people?
I don't know. You'll have to ask yourself that and figure it out.
Yeah, deep questions, deep thoughts.
All right. Tomio says, by the way, how dare Paba write that scene where Aaron put her hand on Ilvers's knee and he closed his hand over hers while they locked gazes. How dare Paba? Moments before the rejection. Okay, now I am happy. Okay, that was just funny. That was funny to me. It was funny. It was a good part of the scene too. I liked it.
okay, quit rubbing it in, man. Come on. Thank you everybody for coming.
Yeah, Tomio says and Mystical Pie says also was kind of caught off guard by how close they are, but I think part of it is that Ilvers is the only person other than Ovama that knows how to talk to Ilvers about emotions. She's also one of her oldest guests and very helpful to her while he was in Liscor. Aaron is also the only person other than Paris and his family that treated Ilvers as a person, and she did that at a critical turning point in his life. Definitely agree with you on how Aaron